I was very excited when I learned that at Gen Con 2025 they were going to release the game Koi from the same team that gave us Bonsai, and it looked like this game had not just a similar theme but also a similar DNA. So very excited because Bonsai simply is one of my favorite games of the last couple of years. And so I was lucky enough to be able to pick up a copy of Koi at Gen Con. The game goes up to 4 players. I played it with 3 players, and I also played it solo, by which I mean true solo. There is a very simple mechanism that allows you to play the game on your own, and you're trying to beat the previous score. The topic is, well, we're gonna create a pond, and we're gonna place koi carps in that pond. The koi carps represented by these acrylic templates, super nice. Grow the pond, put stuff around it, and score points at the end. The main mechanic is also very similar to that of Bonsai, which is great, love it. Which means during your turn you will choose to do one or two things, or I should say to take one or two types of turn. In one type of turn you will take one of these cards, they come from this deck, and you will have fewer cards with fewer people. They come from this deck, and you simply collect the card, and then you also interact with the icon that is indicated under the card, meaning that for some of these cards you will collect the card and also collect the extra benefits indicated there. In this case I got 2 coins and a water tile that I will place in my personal supply. I collect also the card, that's very important, and I place it next to my personal template. Not necessarily. Some cards represent workers, and you place them next to your personal template. We'll see later what that does. Some of the cards represent victory conditions, and then you also save those. And some of the cards will give you a one-time benefit. Then you implement the benefit, say to place water from the general, not personal supply, into my pond, or to collect those things once. And if you take the card that is here, there is no extra benefit, but also no penalty. If you take the card that is here, then you have to pay a coin from your personal supply. And that's how the cards leave. Now, once a card is taken, the remaining ones slide down, and we replenish it from right to left, I guess. My point is that as cards are collected, the cards shift down, so the value of the cards increases. So if you want a card early on, you have to pay or get no extra benefits. You can wait until you get those extra benefits if it's still gonna be there. Oh, look at this one. It allows me to increase my personal storage area by adding this template to it, for example. And so that's what I'm going to collect during that phase there. I'm gonna collect water tiles, regular water tiles. I'm gonna collect water tiles with foliage. I may be able to collect shorelines. And at some point, I would really like to collect some of those. I'm messing up too much. I would really like to collect some of those delightful carps. And I have icons that will allow me to buy a carp. I can buy a small carp for 1 coin, a medium, which is 2 hexes for 2 coins, and a large covering 3 hexes for 3 coins. That's pretty self-explanatory. All right, I'm using the icon there, or from other sources to get me a little carp there. So again, in one type of turn, you will collect a card and the associated benefits, both from the card and possibly the icons, or pay the price for the icons. And then you will take another type of turn, which is now when I'm using the materials that I collected. Now, usually I will have one of these 4 actions available here, and this is when these other workers are also useful because they will also allow to perform the action indicated on their card. So actually when I take this kind of turn, I like to do these actions first because each has a fixed one, and then I decide on the remaining ones which one would make sense. So an action that may come from you and or from your workers will be, and that seems pretty self-explanatory, this is your starting tile for your pond, it'd be to move water to your pond, kind of like so. Another action may be to add a shoreline to your pond, like that. Or the same kind of action, this other half of the action is indicated there, you can upgrade one of your shorelines, adding a lantern to it, and when you do so, you also take a fortune token. These may be traded for different kinds of advantages. Another action that I can do, I can place a foliage into my pond, or the other half of the same, if I already have one, I can upgrade it and take a water lily and place it on it. Of course, ultimately we do it for the love of the carps, and so we place the carp right there. The carps love to be next to water lilies, but then who doesn't? So by using that action, I can either place a carp from my personal supply or move a carp that I already placed. So as the game progresses, again, things usually go first here and there, but I'm showing you how it may start looking. As the game progresses, you will have increasingly more stuff there. And it will look so nice. It will look so nice. It really does. I love just building this little situation here. Now, you also have objectives. Each game you will select either by agreement or randomly 3 objective cards, and each objective card is connected to a specific component, say the waterfalls or the path or the bridge. But you also have the Buddha statues, you also have the whipping willows, you have different kind of these little fountains, turtles, branches, special branches that float in there, special water lilies, the big carp. So each of these objectives, and again, only 3 available per round, will have a specific requirement for you to be able to acquire it. For example, to get a waterfall, I need to have 2 of these cards in my personal discard pile, so I need to have collected 2 of those. Here I need to have water, very important. In the turn that I place a carp, I can also spend 2 coins to add a path token to some of my water. The bridge, I need to have a shoreline with a lantern and pay 3 coins. Things like that, different kind of requirements. But whenever I meet that requirement, that's, I think you guessed it, that's when I get to place that. And you can complete up to one objective per turn, and so you can acquire one of those objective tiles / components per turn. So maybe I collected the bridge, isn't that nice? And then maybe later I collect a waterfall, which is really nice as well. Look at that waterfall. And so my pond will grow and grow and grow and get populated and populated and populated by carps. I want to show you a big one, and they really like to hang out with each other. So that's the idea. The game will continue like this with you collecting components, placing your components in your pond, occasionally completing objectives until either the carp supply runs out or the cards run out. Then everybody takes an extra turn, and then it's time to score points finally. Now, at the end of the game, here is the scoring. Each carp will have a base value, so the small carps will be worth 2, medium 4, large 6. Plus, each is worth an extra point when next to one of those water lilies. Plus, you double the value if the carp is completely surrounded by water edges. For example, this carp here is the large one, is worth 6 points plus 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I really did great there, almost like I just use components that the way I like them. So that's 11 points, plus completely surrounded by water, 22 points. Pretty sweet, huh? This other one here is worth 1 by itself, so it's worth 2 by itself, 3, 4, surrounded by water, 8. Again, almost too good to be true. And sometimes you won't be able to double the value. This tiny carp here is worth 2 for itself, 1 because it's there, it's not double, and that's what it's worth. Also, lanterns. The lanterns, you look at the how many water hexes are straight in front of each lantern. Each is worth a point. Not so great, so 1, 2, 3 there. And then you will have the scoring cards that you may have collected. So you collect points for that. 4 points from a large carp there, for example. And then you look at the objectives. The lantern, the bridge, for example, the bridge counts as having 3 lanterns. So I'm gonna look at all the hexes right in front of it. Each gives me 1 point. The path, if I was able to build the path in the water. Doesn't look nice? It looks so nice. The longer the path, the more points I get. And so on and so forth. The waterfall is just worth points in itself, plus you can double that under certain circumstances. And so on and so forth for the other objectives, each having different scoring value and or conditions / requirements. The player with the highest score wins the game. The comparison between Koi and Bonsai, I believe, is pretty mandatory. And we start with that. If you don't have a lot of time and you play Bonsai, my assessment is that I like this one better. I like it even better. Now, if you have more time to listen to the rest of my soliloquy, it's great. It has all the great stuff that you have in Bonsai, from really good looking, nice components that as you build your creation, you lay those tiles, so they create something just nice and pleasant to look at. Here, even more so than in Bonsai. It's nice to build the bonsais, but here you have the acrylic tiles that really add to the sensorial experience. You have those other objectives that create different kind of landscape and variations, so it just looks better. Speaking of those objectives, to me that is one of the biggest differences between this game and the Bonsai, and it's great that these are objectives that you have to work for, and then you have to work for more, so they stay in place, so to speak. Once I get something that gives me advantages, if I have a lot of water tiles in front of it, I want to do that. Once I start building paths, I want more of those paths, and so on and so forth. I like the fact that it's not like, well, I completed the objective, I get some points. Rather, it adds even more interest to what I'm trying to do. The game, similar to Bonsai, it still feels largely like a multiplayer solo. Of course, the other players will remove cards, but chances are they're not gonna look and look at your display and micromanage it and try to get a card that works for them and kind of like damages you. It's not gonna happen. It's gonna damage them more. And so, functionally, it feels like the cards are going to be removed randomly and you have to deal with whatever is left on the display for you, which makes it so easy to play as a solo. Really, playing it solo, it didn't feel any different than playing it against human opponents, if not for the difference that it was very quick. A solo game probably was like 15-20 minutes and bam, 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 and I had the satisfaction of building my own pawn, seeing it grow, looking at the final production, counting points. I think I could have done better. Of course, you always can. But it works perfectly well. And when you're playing multiplayer, although there's no direct interaction, the game moves fast enough. The game moves fast enough that That is not a problem. You will hear me from time to time in my reviews say that there's a multiplayer solo. We're just waiting for a turn. I will play it only solo. Not this one. I'll be happy to share the joy of Koi with other players because although there isn't a lot of interaction there, it still moves fast enough that it doesn't bother me. And it really is satisfying when you build your engine of workers so it becomes more efficient, taking the action of working and using both your personal avatar and then the workers. Now you're doing a lot of stuff, but of course you need a lot of different things. You need to collect a lot of resources. To do so, you need to have expanded your supply, your storage area, and then possibly you also need to collect some victory cards with some counter resources. Then you need to be able to make them pay off. Then you need to have the objectives. There's a lot going on in an extremely simple, linear, streamlined, familiar yet engaging game engine, and I like that a ton. So I like the gameplay, how I like the pace, I like the challenges. It's one of those games where there is always something more than I would like to do, and it feels enticing and not frustrating. And that is a balance that not every game manages to achieve. So I like in Koi all of the good things that I like in Bonsai. The general idea is definitely similar, but I think it looks better. I think it has some extra reasons for interest in the objectives and in the way the carps work, and the carps and the upgrades and the lanterns and the water lilies. I think it achieves more in terms of gameplay with pretty much the same engine of rules. So maybe it takes a couple of minutes more to set up just because of all of the objectives and they look so different from one another. You want to sort them out. But I don't even gonna say that that's a negative, just as a description. Bonsai is great. And I love that game. Koi to me is even better, slightly better maybe. But between the two is the better one, in my opinion, and in any case, it's a really good game on its own.